to everybody. Great. Aloha, everybody. Welcome. Michaela Kennedy here with startingmyownbusiness.org and my dear friend, Jennifer. It's not flipping today.
Yes, Jennifer Nearents.
There it is. Yes, it is. It did flip. It did flip. There we go. Hi. It is flipping. Before we even begin, I just want to continue on what we were just doing before we went on, is just dealing with all these fuddy-duddy technical issues. And the strange thing, as I told you before, is I get caught up with these Google Hangouts, and I'm really grateful to be able to tell everybody. It's like unburdening. It's like venting, you know? Because then you go, oh, I'm not the only one who has those problems. But I note on my Google+. One is for the event and the other is for a hangout. And I am afraid that if I send people the wrong link, that they're going to get a link that comes directly right into our homes here and join us right here on air. And I really don't want that to happen because I had that happen once before. Is that what you're laughing at?
Yes. You've got to share the story.
Okay, well, did I tell you what I called it? I was looking for a name and I didn't know what to name it, and people were coming up with all these catchy names, so I thought, well, why not Wednesday afternoon tea? A lot of people sit around in the afternoon, they drink tea, and they brainstorm ideas and everything, and never look at you laugh at me. Look at you laugh. I mean, I was totally innocent when I created that. I did. I also did not realize, when you're getting to know these public platforms, be very careful, because you think you're inviting a bunch of people when in fact you're inviting a bunch of people to present with you, basically. So if you don't know, if you're inviting people and you really don't know them, you're suddenly inviting yourself into their lives. So you want to be very careful about doing that. You want to know when to invite people through a public channel, which is where we're back to right this moment. I've done this so many times before, and today it's just this brain burp. I can't figure out how to share the public button, even though I feel like I did already. So maybe I did.
You know what? This is a fabulous example, though, Michaela, of how when we start moving into new areas, things that we take for granted, things that we know we should know how to do, or I should be able to do this, everything gets all scrambled as we start to create new pathways in our brain, in our hearts, in our bodies, as we start doing things differently, as we start stepping out of our comfort zone, things that we think we should know how to do, suddenly we don't know how to do them anymore, and we've got to be patient and give ourselves that ability to grow into these new areas. So I think it's fabulous that you have been so transparent and sharing it with me and with our viewers, because it is such a critical piece that people don't realize. They don't get it, that as they change and as they grow and as they move from one reality into another, this reality is going to be different than where you're at right now, so nothing's going to work the same for a while. Well, you sort it out, and it's not anything to be afraid of. It's something to embrace, like, yeah, cool, another level reached. I wonder what this is going to bring. This is
well, that is exactly what we're all about, and is where we just came from with the 10 weeks of blasting through self-limiting beliefs. I mean, nobody within their right mind knows or thinks that you can blast through something once and be done with it. You can't do that with a habit. When you're learning new habits, and right now these 10 weeks of creativity that we're talking about, and the steps that we talk about every week are steps that help you, these mini baby steps that you take towards changing a habit. So you change the tiny habits first, so then you're suddenly changing a much larger behavior of how you approach the day, even. How you approach your waking up in the morning. Suddenly everything becomes transformed. Yeah?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Yep. And it's those little steps that really do snowball into massive changes. And I would love to share a story with you if you don't mind.
Please do.
I was actually going
to missed you last week.
One of my neighbors stopped me, and she was telling me about needing to change her diet and how she was really disappointed that, you know, she'd fallen back on all of these wonderful healthy routines that she had and was now having to start over. And she goes, you know, I remember when I first started this, every day I would do one small thing, and for the first week, that one small thing was taking out one soda a day that I used to drink. I knew that I used to drink 4. Now that day I could only drink 3. And she goes, those little changes were easy. I was successful at those, and they built on it and built on it. And pretty soon, she said, she lost 360 pounds by these little itty-bitty steps. Yes, massive.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
They may seem like little things, but they build on each other. They give you confidence.
Well, they do, yes. And we don't realize how long it's taken us to ingrain a bad habit. You know, we say, oh, things, you know, just happen, so quickly. But they don't. They accumulate over time. And some things that look like they happen fast are becoming a result of old habits, of bad habits. And conversely, habits, when you are really cultivating those good habits every day, which is part of the exercises that we're offering, you're able to find the joy of today. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm so glad you shared that story, Jennifer. I kind of remember you talking about your neighbor. No, it was a few months back now, and it was funny. I almost expected you to say, you know, somebody that had felt defeated because they had broken their routine. Well, that also would take away from us the joy of today, because even though you do fall back and you do something that was a bad habit and you beat yourself up over it, well, the less you can beat yourself up over that stuff is more time you put toward your creative activity.
Yep.
And it's like going back to the farmer again. You know, the farmer doesn't look and go, oh, crap, I didn't see that weed when it was a baby and I should have. Come on. You know.
You have a really great whine to that, too. That was good.
Yeah, I mean, pull the weed for God's sake and get on with it, you know? Next. Keep weeding. Just keep weeding. You'll get there.
Yeah.
So there are a couple of things. Again, I was a little bit lost with techno stuff today, so I didn't give my spiel down below, but I think you all know that I am Michaela. And I also didn't turn on the Q&A today. So if you do have questions, feel free to put them down below. I've been getting some great feedback from people. It's interesting when you ask peers. I mean, we do. When we want to know that something's working well, we do. We go to our peers. We ask them to take a look, see what they have to say. And a lot of the peers that have given me feedback have said, yes, this is very important stuff. It's fundamental stuff, foundational stuff that we went through decades ago, and we keep going back to, and we keep bringing it back into focus so that we can continue to cultivate that next big thing. You know, there always will be the next big thing. It's never going to be something that you have to regret that's past you, because it's always there in front of you, ready to blossom. And these are the kind of things that we're going through to learn about blossoming them. So without further ado, I'm going to switch over to, all right, let's see. I know, this always worries me. Am I going to get the right one? Yes. And I might not get the right one. I'm not sure. Yeah. Okay, I did get it. I got the 10 Precepts of Creativity, tapping the creative force for any goal. And the things that we've gone through so far. Okay, we've already gone through the first 3. And Jen, you were here for the first 2, and I want to stop at number 3, because that one, I think a lot of people, it's a very basic way of thinking, but people go, wow, I never thought of it that way before.
Right.
Okay, and it's very obvious. You know, I'll just go through this really quick. Hold on just a second. You know, number one, we go without saying, we know that everything, that a creative energy force permeates everything within every fiber of our universe. And the more you can come up with your own ideas for these is really good too. Come up with your own short mantra so that you can remember these precepts. Even if it's something as simple as number one, energy is. Very easy. You know, number two, creativity precept number two, all energy collects and continues. Basically, conditions happen. You know, conditions all come together. So then we get to number three, and we wonder, well, how does the energy collect and continue? How does that happen? For us here in this existence, it happens through the emotional plane. And it happens through the thought process. Because every single thing out there is a thought that becomes manifest. Everything. And I did kind of like shut you off there, Jennifer. Did you have something to share before I really start falling into the rabbit hole here?
I was like, I want to talk, I want to talk, I want to talk.
I know. Yeah, let me go.
Last week we were up in Anacortes with my family, and we have a really sketchy internet connection. Otherwise, I would have been on the Hangout with you, because when I read this one, I was so excited. This is like the basis of everything that I talk about. Is it all comes back to our emotions and thoughts. They truly are ground zero. Those make up who we are, who we think we are, who we hold ourselves to be at our basic core. They are what colors and drives and filters everything that we see, everything we say, everything we do. And it truly is the basic starting point of how do we feel about who we are, how do we feel about how we look, how do we feel about what we're doing, how do we feel about our belief systems, yes. So I could go for days on this one.
This is great validation, because that's what the precepts are all about. This is the 10 precepts of creativity. People are starting to ask me, where do these come from? Well, I created them, okay? I did. But it doesn't mean that they are new. And it doesn't mean that putting them together in this way is a way that I'm putting it together that makes sense for me. And helps me to create a framework that helps me move forward. And if it helps me, I think maybe it helps everybody else too. And there are many different, some people call them principles, some people call them steps to a better creative self, whatever it may be. But because when you're talking about precepts, you're talking about basics of foundations that work across the board, and we can get validation like that from somebody who's seeing it for the first time and going, oh yes, you know, that's woven right into my professional work. It should be. These precepts should be woven into everybody's lives, their professional and personal, in order to live a most abundant, productive life that they are meant to live. Right?
Yeah. Yes, totally agree, because there's too many things that are involved in our emotions and our thoughts and our beliefs that color things that we don't even realize until we start to notice our thoughts, our feelings, the way that we actually view the world. Until we can notice how we view the world, we can't change it, because you can't change something you aren't aware of.
Yes, and talking about different colors, look what we have here.
Yeah.
I introduced this last week, but it's interesting to hear your perspective on it, Jennifer, because when we go back to number 2, when we're looking at continuation and conditions, those conditions, a thought can be a condition, an emotion can be a condition. Your history is your condition, how well you learn something. Obviously, at 60, someone's not going to learn how to swim as well as maybe a 5-year-old might learn. You know, there are different levels of capabilities that we have. And we don't always see them in clarity. If you look at me in the middle there, it's kind of blotchy. You know, you might have a little bit more clarity on one than another. Or maybe you wish you had more clarity on one, but it's standing in your blind spot or something like that. And these are all things that change. You know, they aren't things that we get stuck on. Well, I could never do that. Man, if I believed everything that everybody told me, I can't do that because, and if I believed that, there are many, many things that I would not have done so far in my life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my dad, he told me I couldn't move to Japan. I said, why not? And he said, well, because you're American. I said, oh, okay, well, you know what, I'm going to go and I'm going to check it out. And if I can't, I'll just come home, okay? 8 years later. So it's really, it's all about being open. And those emotions and thoughts are, you know, they're not always bad. You know, very often they're the seeds that we want to cultivate. But as a good farmer looks and separates good seeds and bad seeds, and separates and understands the weeds that are growing as opposed to what the vegetable is, that particular leaf that's growing, that you know that's the one that you want, that you don't want to pull that because that's not a weed, that's the thing you want to grow, right? So yeah. It's the same thing here. It's we put so much emphasis on it being good or bad that we forget that all it is just energy. Well,
exactly. That's what I'm sitting here going, yes, yeah. But good and bad is up for discussion.
Exactly. Yep.
So that's something when you find yourself going, well, that's good or that's bad or that's right or that's wrong, I would implore people to kind of take a step back and go, oh, why is it? Because you may find that belief system comes from your great-grandfather that made a comment that stuck in your head when you were 18 months old and you've never noticed it or questioned it until now. And now you can realize, oh, wait a minute, that was his belief based on his history. And do I still want to view it that way? Then you get to choose how you view it instead of just repeating someone else's belief system.
Exactly. I mean, their lessons learned came in a completely different atmosphere than ours.
Exactly.
There are so many different factors.
Mm-hmm.
So this brings us to creativity number 4, the precept number 4. When conditions are set up, other conditions are automatically attracted in support. So have you ever noticed that when you forget to clean your house, it gets so much more filthier really fast, so much even faster?
I thought you were going to say you have visitors for the first time ever.
Well, isn't that funny? Because a lot of people who have visitors, they have visitors specifically so that they can get their house cleaned and looking in order.
That's funny.
That's another good one. But when things are set up, they automatically attract other things. Now, you've heard a lot talk about people talking about the law of attraction, and it's become this coined term. But when you go back to thousands, go back to eons of writings from liturgical scholars from way back when, a lot of these law of attraction, or whatever it is we're coining it in English today, were ideas that were, or theories or laws that presented themselves thousands of years ago too, and people understood it. You know, an apple tree is not going to give growth to an eggplant. It's not going to happen.
No.
You know, when you look around, you can't deny the conditions present to help you move forward towards something. So if you're constantly saying no to networking events and constantly saying no to updating your business card, and constantly sitting there saying that I could never do that, I could never learn how to play the piano for that song because it's too difficult, I'm not even going to try. So I'm going to sit here and I'm going to eat popcorn and watch TV. Of course, absolutely, you're never going to do it because you're helping to create the conditions that support that truth within yourself, and you're absolutely true.
Mm-hmm.
You're absolutely right. You're never going to learn how to play that piece on the piano, never.
Mm-hmm.
So it's setting it up and understanding. It's funny going back to having visitors come. You don't sit there and hope that visitors might come to visit you someday, and then when they show up on your doorstep, you're all pissed off because you didn't clean. You don't do that. You know what you do is you plan for guests to come. You invite guests to come. You make the dates to when the guests come, and then you prepare for them to come by cleaning and by filling the house with food or whatever it is, thing you prepare for them, and you do not expect them not to come, right?
That piece right there. And you may not know how they're going to, but you just believe that they will. You've done all the work.
Yeah.
You've taken all the steps, and you've held the space for them to show up. And people ask me, what does that mean, holding the space? And it's that. It's the belief that it will happen, and you've created a space for it to be filled. Because the universe hates a vacuum. It will fill that space.
Yes, exactly.
And it's interesting that this is where today is going, because on my wall I've created my goals for September, and created based on different products that I've got available. And down at the bottom, I've got it broken down daily, I've got it broken down weekly, broken down for the end month, and then the last line on it is how, with a big question mark.
Mm.
And I have listed on there ways that I think my goals will be met, with this huge open space for it to be filled with divine inspiration.
I love it. I love it.
Because it's moving forward in the ways that I know how to move forward. But I know that I only know a small portion of how to meet those goals. Now, those goals aren't things that I've sat and figured out with my calculator. Those are things that have risen up from the center of my being.
Yeah.
This is what I want. This is how I want to help, help the world this month. This is what it means to me. This is what it means to them. How do I do this? So it's been very fascinating to watch the lines get filled in as the divine inspiration comes in.
Absolutely. When you create it, way back when I was living in Tokyo and I was teaching conversational and business English, and some businessmen would come in and they'd be really busy and they'd have a lot on their minds and they'd have a really hard time focusing on the lesson at hand. So I would just say to them, okay, relax and breathe. And they'd breathe, and I'd make them just kind of shake their hands out a little bit, just shake their head a little bit, and breathe again. And then I'd say, okay, we're going to do conditionals now. And I'd do the if-when, okay? So I'd say, okay, do you know this? And some of them would know some of their conditionals or whatever, and I'd say, okay, our conditional today is if. So I say, if my cup is filled with tea, I cannot pour coffee into it. So that would take them a while to go through all the language of it and everything. But then I'd just draw them a picture. And I'd say, see, a filled cup.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot fill a filled cup. And then all these different otherwise. And then we would by 20 minutes into that, we would be off on all sorts of philosophical discussions about being empty and the Zen idea of meditation and emptying your brain so that you can bring inspiring thoughts in, cleaning your house so that you are ready to cook, whatever,
Yes, yes. And I love this. We keep going back into the Zen, the martial arts, the discipline, the Budo, the basics of preparing. And yes.
Way back in the 90s, when I was living in Tokyo, you know what? I'm going to come back to this because I just realized that it's kind of boring staring at this, and we could looking at each other, couldn't we? except that stop. There we go. Hi. There it is. Back in the 90s, I was facilitating a lot of different workshops, meditation workshops, Reiki workshops, people doing martial art teachers. And it was at a point when it came to martial arts like Qigong or Tai Chi or things like that were more meditative in nature. Many of the founders, or the ones who brought it out of China and out of Tibet, as it were no longer teaching. They were only teaching in their own local area, but they were teaching instructors that were going out. And there was an American guy that I found that had studied directly with this Chinese Qigong teacher. And I really wanted the Chinese guy to come to Tokyo and do the presentation, but he sent this guy instead. Well, this guy, oh God. If you are new to energy work and you say that you haven't felt anything, you still have to do the basics. You still have to find out from the basics, from clearing out the basics, where it is, where your break is, where your obstacle is. This particular guy, though, figured that if you just piled on enough of the teachings, whether they're basic, middle, or advanced, no matter what it is, if you pile enough of them on in one day, everybody's going to experience something.
Meltdown.
So we did. We had about a third of the room had meltdowns. About another third were kind of like riding on this coast, like kind of going, well, this is kind of cool, but I'm not really sure what's happening, and I need to ground myself. And then there are others that were right there, but the thing is, he should never have done that. Something bad happened. I think I called him on it. I really raked the guy over the coals or whatever. But somehow, through that experience, I got connected with the master, and the master did come to Tokyo with his wife to teach for a whole weekend. And all he and his wife taught the entire 2-day weekend, actually it was 2.5 because we had Friday night as well, were like 2 very basic breathing techniques, and that was it. And I was also, I mean, this was like going from the ridiculous to the sublime. You're like, well, enough already. When are we going to get into something more deep? Yeah. But you're laughing because you know what it's like when you're a master. You must always go back to the basics. And if anybody says to me, well, I tried that already, but or it didn't work or whatever, I stop right there, because apparently that person didn't go far enough and didn't. Otherwise, they never would have been saying that. So it's like you trip over yourself.
This is fabulous, and you gave me an aha moment, and I would love to honor you with sharing it. Yeah. I quit Aikido. I quit practicing on the mat when I graded to a green belt, because at that point it shifted. I didn't feel I was ready. My sensei said I was, and we had one of these. So not only was I facing trust issues, but not only in their judgment, but in mine and in my capabilities. Because at Greenbelt within our dojo, because of the way that it was, the age breakup and everything else within our dojo, Greenbelt moved into a leadership role. Not into running the dojo, but into people are looking up to you to know more than they do, which that's very standard. In our dojo, it felt overwhelming to me because I was not willing to stand up into a leadership position. Now, mind you, this has been a couple years ago. So that's what these last couple years have been about standing up, about speaking my piece, about sharing what I know, about being okay in a leadership position, about being okay being heard and seen for what I know, and sharing it with others. So your little bit of insight right there, it's like, yes, cool. I agree with you, and I have personal experience of that little piece, that The place that you stop is where you hit your block. That's where your block is. That's what you get to work on, and that's what martial arts is so good at, is pointing out where your inner issues are. I love it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, on that, I would like to go over, and I'm still figuring out how to go to screen share, and
You get it?
I started to, and then I didn't. So yeah, I got it now. Here we go. There are a lot of things you have to press. A lot of buttons. Okay. So, the precept of creativity number 4. When conditions are set up, other conditions are automatically attracted in support. One thing I want to say before we go to the last slide is I've been making these precepts as very general and objective as possible, in order that the reader and the people who are getting into these can own it for themselves. I don't want to, that was the one problem that I had with doing other people's principles or lists or whatever it is they created, was very often the language got in the way for me. And because I disagreed with the language or the way the language was being used, I didn't really want to hear what that messenger had to say. So I was really good at killing the messenger. And now I'm saying, please don't kill me, I'm just the messenger. So you know what? Clean your house. Basically, clean your house for the guests. Clean your house for the guest of the creative force. Know that that creative force is going to come walking in that door later on today, and you better be darn ready for it. So when conditions are set up, as you clean up your house and as you get yourself ready, you know, even if it's a matter, you want to start a book and you don't know where to start, well, for goodness gracious, for crying out loud, will you open up a Word document or a Pages document and open up a template and choose a template and write a table of contents? You know, set the things up. If you have no idea, start someplace. Use something. I don't know. In the old days, the writer used to sit there with a great big pile of lead pencils and would just sharpen them. And then all of a sudden they'd start writing, yeah? I think you know that one.
Yeah, I think I'm one of the few people today that still use lead pencils.
Yeah, I do too, but I get tired of the bad erasers and sharpeners that I have. You see, that's what you have to have, all these good conditions present to move forward sometimes. So anybody who watched last week's practice exercises, you should note that today's are the same as last week's. And you're going to continue to see repetitive things within the exercises because these are exercises that are cumulative. Just keep on going back to your emotions. Ask yourself the question, how do I feel right now? And you want to divide it up into 3 different groups, a positive, a neutral, or a negative. Some people say, well, neutral. What is a neutral? That doesn't make sense. An emotion is either positive or neutral. Well, you know, being inquisitive, that can be neutral. It doesn't necessarily mean it's good or bad. You know, sometimes it's bad. Curiosity killed the cat. Sometimes curiosity is good. You know, it leads you on to great inventions. So no matter what it is, you know, we go back to the journaling, and I mentioned this way last spring, I think it was, is that when you're keeping a dream journal, the most important thing about that dream journal is not to be telling a 2-page story, but to be able to write down what that one emotion was evoked from your dream. Mm-hmm. And when you can pull out that one or even a couple, but whatever the emotions were, then that means that your subconscious has gotten across to you, because that's where they taught to you. They taught to you in the emotions, on the emotional level. And that's where we converse. That's where the radio frequencies are. So how can I transform the negative energy into positive energy? Well, I mean, how do you know that one seed's bad and another seed is good? How do you know that until you start cultivating it? And then as you start cultivating it, are you going to go, well, gosh, you know, this dinkly little thing is all kind of brown and not growing very big, but no plant left behind. I'm going to forget about the one that's robust and just do whatever I can on this one on the rock to see if it grows. Come on. Make a little sense. Am I being too sarcastic here? I don't know.
I know, I'm right. I am doing everything to keep my mouth shut on that whole leave no plant.
Good. I can. As long as you're trying to stuff a sock in your throat. I was really wondering.
No,
oh God, she's not saying anything.
This isn't a sock. This is a whole pair of pants.
So it's a matter of just becoming aware. It's the overall process is becoming aware of our emotional bodies, how we use our emotional bodies to relate, and how we don't need to use those old patterns the way we used to. We create new habit patterns. Way back, oh gosh, I worked for a guy way back when they called computers microcomputers. That's dating me. I shouldn't even admit that I worked in the microcomputer industry. That's really quite embarrassing. The owner I remember the owner, he stopped to talk to me one time, and he said, you know, there are 3 different kinds of people, and most people are the first 2. So the first 2 are, you're either reacting to what somebody has done, or you're doing something to get a reaction from somebody. So typically that's what most of our population is made up of. What makes up the leaders is those who don't act or react or look for a reaction, but they always act from the heart. And they always take the moment to breathe and the moment to balance and say what you really mean to say, not because it's some reaction to somebody else or even a reaction to your own belief system that you need to blast out of.
Yeah. Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
So I would love to say something here real quick about the how can I transform the negative energy into positive energy, as well as paying attention to what you're thinking and how you're feeling.
There's a word up at the top. It says tapping. Do you think that could have anything to do with that?
I actually wasn't going to go there. Believe it or not, I was just because I didn't want to change the flow of what you've got going. So
go for it.
The immediate thoughts that come up is an example that I had the other day when I was doing my morning pages, and I noticed, being aware of how I'm feeling, I noticed that I didn't want to be doing it. And so as I'm still doing my automatic writing, I was asking myself, what an interesting thought. What an interesting feeling. Why don't I want to continue? And then, because of the questions, all this stuff started coming out, which is fabulous because I'm still doing my morning pages and still using my self-will, my willpower to keep myself doing it because I know it's in my highest interest, my highest good. So I'm still writing and asking myself questions. Okay, why is it that I don't want to do the morning pages? Why is it that I'm feeling resistance to this? And it was because my body was tired. I wanted to just either go back to bed or to get up out of bed, either one, but I didn't want to sit here. I didn't want to be writing. In essence, my little girl was throwing a temper tantrum. Had I not stopped and asked that question, it would have been very easy to just close the book and be done. I'm not going to do this. This is stupid. Who would I have been hurting? Just me. Just me. So that is one of the biggest practices that I have gotten into over the last 10 years or so, is to, when I notice a feeling, it's like, isn't that interesting? Why do I feel this way? Is there something, what triggered that? Is there something, a situation that I'm in that is making me feel this way? Is there a memory associated with it? And I just start asking questions. Well, why is that? Why do I feel that way? What could have led to it? What is it that I'm expecting to happen here? What were my expectations around this situation? Where is that not going the way that I thought? And it's really fascinating how much we learn about what really goes on in here and in here and in every cell of our body that is emitting all of this energy. We're not the only ones that are feeling it. It is felt by others around us. So as Michaela was saying, with the, every thought and emotion, it creates the reality out there. That is so very true. It's becoming aware of what energy we are putting out there and attracting with or repelling with that gives us the power to really, truly shape our lives. And so my suggestion is to start asking yourself questions. Well, then I'll be talking to myself. Yeah, and awesome. We do it anyway.
You do it anyway. I know. You're gonna tell me you don't do that? Yeah. What
if you don't talk to yourself, I'm gonna call bullshit and say,
If you don't talk to yourself next, I don't think we're
exactly. Yeah. And as far as the shifting negative to positive, I would actually say that by simply becoming aware of how you're feeling and why you might be feeling that way, you've already shifted it from one reality to another, because you are now aware of it and you are expanding your view of it. So suddenly it's not just this little pinhole. Pretty soon you're going to have like a view here and then here. Pretty soon you're going to have a greater reality and understanding of how you are operating within this moment, which changes your entire perspective.
That's so funny that you said that, and you caught right into that, and you also caught into the energy of what I was going through as I wrote that too, or how it was there. And I thought, wait a minute, when you read that, and a lot of, I'd say, I don't want to say quacks, but a lot of people that ride on the wagon of energy and stuff, they really make a big deal of this, transforming the negative energy to positive energy, and it's like this great big magic thing. That's about as magic as the difference between the color red and the color blue. Is one more magic than the other? I don't think so. Right. You just need to tweak a little bit to get a little bit more condition of one condition than another to make it blue as opposed to red. So it's the same. Yep.
It's all information.
Yeah, so I left it. I left it there because we do buy into those words negative and positive, and we make a big deal of it, and we really do. You know what? We know how to turn a fart into a hurricane. We don't have to do it every day. Mm-hmm. So use these questions to raise your awareness, your mindfulness. I would go back over the last 10 or 15 minutes of introducing that one section and what you just shared as well, Jennifer, because it falls so perfectly into what I've been thinking about all week as well.
Oh, color me so surprised.
Yeah.
It's good to be back on this. It's good to be back in connection and back on sharing what's going on and really giving voice to all of these messages, because it's very pervasive and it needs to.
Yeah, the one thing I need to do is get these slides in for the download as well. I didn't do that. I was making a list. So I knew there was one thing that I was forgetting, and that's one thing that I forgot about. So there will be downloads available for each one of these as we go through.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay.
And I'm feeling that we're pretty much wrapped up. What do you think?
Yep, I agree. I agree. This have given people an awful lot to think about.
Yes, it's a lot. I'm thinking, wow, I need to go back and review that for myself.
Well, one of the greatest things about everything that we talk about, Michaela, is it empowers people to take charge of their own thoughts and feelings. And that is where the true power lies, is within ourselves, and with really knowing who we are, the good, the bad, the fabulous, the ugly, the beautiful, the whole package, because there is nobody else like us. Each one of us is so unique, and we have something vitally important to share in the world. And yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So again, it's great being here with you again, Jennifer. Welcome back. And next week we were going to be, wow, the halfway mark, number 5, precepts. Please go back and review. We were trying to make these. That's why I keep going over each one of them, is so that we own them. You know, we aren't just on to number 5 and going, oh, it's number 2 again. We need to own them as the cumulative event they are that, you know, give birth to great creative force.
Yes.
Right?
Agreed.
Good stuff.
Yep.
All righty. Well, thanks so much. And again, if you want to leave any comments, leave them below here, and we'll catch you on the other side. Thanks so much.
Thank
Aloha.
you. Bye.